Thank you for joining the Earth Day 2022 virtual stage. I'm John Opperman, Executive Director of Earth Day Initiative, and I am joined here with Svitlana Krakovska. And Svitlana, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Okay, I'm Svitlana Krakovska, and I am head of Laboratory of Applied Climatology in the Ukrainian Hydrometeorological Institute. At the same time, I worked and participated in preparation of the report of the sixth assessment report of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So I was leading author for Working Group 1, and for many years I'm head of delegation of Ukraine to this panel and actually work with climate change. Before I was participant of the second Ukrainian Antarctic expedition. It was 25 years ago. So actually, this was one of my first, let's say, meeting with climate change impact in Antarctic Peninsula region. So that's briefly about myself.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us today. So you've been vocal in recent weeks about the need to move forward on climate action at the same time that we're dealing with the crisis in Ukraine. You are located in Ukraine at the moment, and at the same time, you've been working on the very important and really stark warnings that have been issued by the IPCC reports in recent weeks. So how have you dealt with this, and how has this impacted you personally? How has your family gone through this in terms of you're working on a very important and substantial report with regard to the climate crisis at the same time that this invasion has come into your homeland? And how have you dealt with that in recent weeks? What has that been like for you personally?
Well, this is question actually very wide question for me, because I work for climate change for many years, so it's more than 10 years for now at least, and with this war of actually declared war of Russia against Ukraine, I start to think in parallel about this war and about actually climate change. And I found many very similar things. And the most important, what I found very quickly from the very beginning, from the very first days when I was thinking about this, it's about these fossil fuels, because, well, actually they are the cause of climate change. It is so the fossil fuels, they are our actually addiction to these fossil fuels, I would say. When we burn and we have emission, we change composition of the atmosphere, and with this we change our climate system, in fact. And at the same time, the easiness of extraction of these fossil fuels, and the country which actually rich of these fossil fuels, I mean Russia, they've got more than half of their budget selling just this oil, gas, and coal. And they put this money to fund the aggression, to fund their army. And that's why actually from the very beginning, I start to put attention to this, that it's, first of all, we need to cut funding the war, because of just this, again, this money goes to these missiles which goes over our heads here, and they fund this war directly, in fact. So this is one very direct connection, but I found many other actually more, especially with Ukraine, because, well, Ukraine in the middle of Europe, and actually it has very good climate conditions. So we have really very favorable climate conditions for agriculture and just for living here. We have problem, of course, with climate change, but in fact, we were maybe the last European country where we start to think about climate change on very high level. I would admit this, just because we are really far from oceans. We are really far from Arctic, from tropical cyclones, and everything was more or less fine. Okay, we had milder winters, which was really good. So for many people in Ukraine, it was not, not the problem. When I start to talk to them, look, we have climate change. We will have very big problem very soon. They said, oh, okay, it's not the problem for now. We have so good mild winter, not much energy, not big bill to pay, actually. So it was really very difficult. But in last some years, since 2018, I would say, so we start to have very severe droughts in Ukraine, and they impacted our agriculture, the main sector, economical sector. So people start to think about this much more, better about this. And again, after this occupation of Crimea in 2014, in Crimea and in this eastern southern part of Ukraine, we really have problem with water quantity and with water quality. So it's direct climate change impact there. And again, it is somehow actually connect to this war, and we have right now this very big, the biggest actually fighting there. And we expect the biggest fighting there after we had here in Kiev before. So again, it's climate change problem here, and I could I could find more. In fact, just because I know better this situation in Ukraine particularly. But again, it's the problem not only in Ukraine, because I know that in the world there were other conflicts which were provoked by climate change, with droughts, or with tropical cyclones, or with rising sea level. So it caused a lot of problem. And this last report of Working Group 2, it says that half of actually population, they live in vulnerable places. Right now, it will be not in the future. It is right now.
And I think that is an important part of your message, where those of us who have been working in climate and the environment for years, it does always feel like climate gets pushed to the side. It always gets pushed to the back burner because there always seems to be some other crisis that seems more immediate, more like a clear and present danger. Okay, we'll deal with climate later because it's some abstract, long-term, down the road challenge that we'll have to face. But what you just said is actually that's right now. That's not in the future, that this huge part of the planet, people living on this planet, are facing the effects of climate change. So how do we then move forward with this while we're dealing with, obviously, what is very much top of mind for people and should rightfully be top of mind for people, which is the invasion of Ukraine? And before that, it was COVID. And before that, it was something else. It was an economic recession. It was whatever it is. There's always something else. But now that you have gone through this very real, very tangible experience of working on the climate crisis, but also having to deal with the climate crisis in your backyard, around your home, what message would you have for people to continue that momentum? What would you advise people to do? Are there any lessons that you have found that could help other people in saying, okay, we have to deal with this crisis that's in front of us, and we also have to continue to deal with the climate crisis? Do you have any advice for people who are overwhelmed?
I guess I have, actually, and there are not, the only one. I have many, because I'm thinking about this all time, in fact, for many years. So I would say that the first, my advice, that we need to be united. So we just understand it very, very well here in Ukraine. Just from the very beginning of this war, from very, very first hours, I would say, it was shock for us, notwithstanding it was, we we were in this war situation for 8 years, because we had this war from this occupation of Crimea and this east part of Ukraine. It was not for all Ukraine. So somehow we were prepared. We were preparing for this war for some last months. So we had in my actually home, I had my handbag with documents. We had water, we had food, we had all these things. So we were preparing, but first we had a shock. So anyway, how you will prepare or not, you will have this shock of this first impact. But then after you just realize that, yes, it happened. So we are right now in this situation. Then you start just to think, okay, what is much more valuable for you? And then you just recognize all what is really matter. It's your children, of course, it's your family, it's all things you are actually care about. And well, with this, we start to think not only about ourselves, but about people around, and start to support each other. And with this, we were so much united. We were so much, it was incredible, actually, our solidarity with each other. So we just understood that we are not alone. So we can overcome this situation when we will be united again. Because many our families, they send their children just, with a paper, with document, something in their pocket. And some other volunteers just took these children and take care about them. So it was so big, kindness. And well, I don't know, maybe not all these words in English, sorry, but I feel that you understand what I mean. So when we have real problem, when we united, we can overcome this problem. So this is the first message I would say. So here in Ukraine, in these first days, we were strong as just I don't know. So it's incredible indeed for all of us. Another message, it's about again about this values. What is really value for you? What you will take with you if you will be in this situation? What you will put in your handbag, in fact? And then you think about climate change and what actually this can do. I mean, climate change with our world. And if you think about the war as extreme event, because in fact, if we will have our world with more than 2 degrees of warming, we will have so many extreme events that in many places it will be like war here, with all these destructions, with all these huge, victims, and it's really very, very, it's awful. In fact, it's big catastrophe. In fact, and then you think what really matters for you. And with this, you think, okay, what I can do to prevent it. And in fact, scientists already provided many options. And this IPCC reports, they're full of these options. This actually organization which unite the best scientists in the world who can provide scenarios of these different pathways and scenarios about adaptation to climate change and about mitigation of climate change. And all these scenarios, they have options. And these options for different sectors, they're for different levels, from individual to very high level, international level. And depending on the person, what I can do as just individual, as mother, as just, woman who live in Ukraine, even in such situation, what I can do, it's one thing. So I can do actually, just don't think that you are a small individual. In fact, we are many. And since we made this problem of climate change, we can deal with this problem. So this is negative and positive message in one, in fact. The only problem, I would say, that it is maybe not so obvious as Rome. So, and it's about time frame, I would say. It's very difficult to explain how climate change will impact on different people in different places. It's much more understandable when I sit here and I listen for this air alarm, and I understand that in next minutes, in fact, I don't know where this missile will hit. So will it be over my house or somewhere else? So this is big uncertainty, in fact, in our life here in this war situation. And in fact, the same uncertainty with these extreme events. You never know where you will be in next, okay, maybe not tomorrow, but next year, let's say. Will you have drought, or will you have flood in your place, or will you have this hail of big size, or will you have tropical cyclone? So there are many different hydrometeorological extreme events, and all of them you could have just here. So then you think what I can do. From this individual level, maybe I can eat even less meat, and it will make better this world in many sense. In fact, it will make better my life because I will be healthy. So it's actually it's fact. Another, I can go and tell just my neighbors about my thoughts on this. Maybe we can make something together. In fact, maybe we can put more trees just on our backyard. It will help our to take carbon from the atmosphere. So there are many different options, and just don't think that you're alone. In fact, there are many people who think about this, and this is what actually I start to do when I recognized this big threat of climate change. I was a scientist, actually. I worked with climate models with computer. For me, it was interesting to do this modeling and look in these models. But then when I take this theoretical work to real world, and I just try to imagine this world where my children will live, in fact. And this world is, it is not what you see on screen. It is not movie, as you see, just catastrophes, some movie. It can happen just here, now. So that's why actually I start to talk to people around me. I start to learn how to better to convey my message, in fact. And I do it last few years, in fact. every week at least I do this. I talk to, and I like to talk actually to young people. They understand better. They are much more flexible, and they will live in this world. So that's why they want make this world better for them. Well, I don't know. I talk too much, maybe.
No. I think it's just enough, and that's what I want to thank you for. We at Earth Day Initiative, we're always telling people that one of the most impactful things you can do is be a climate communicator. So talk about it, because what you said is you're not alone. And I think that often with the things that you care about, maybe you don't talk about it that much. And I care about climate action and you care about climate action, but because we're not talking to each other about it, we don't know that we're in this together. So I think what you're doing, that message, I do really appreciate. And I appreciate all of the work that you have been doing despite your incredibly difficult circumstances and your dedication on moving forward on tackling the climate crisis at this time and using your voice and talking to the world about it truly. I do want to also emphasize what you said about community and being in this together, and the community that you felt in Ukraine, and then the community that you felt around climate issues. I and everyone that I know have really had Ukraine and Ukrainians in our thoughts in the recent weeks. And I hope that you feel that. And we're thinking about you, and we really wish you the best. And we want to do anything that we can to support you. And all I can do is thank you right now for the work that you've done despite your circumstances. And thank you for joining us today for this session.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really very appreciated.
Thank you. Be well.